Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Dear IOCV members, fellows, and friends, as the chairperson of Session 2 on citrus viral diseases, I have the pleasure and honor of welcoming you all to participate in this conference. Firstly, let me introduce myself. I'm Mengji Cao from Southwest University, China. I'm also the secretary of IOCV. As you know, viral diseases have posed a serious threat to citrus throughout the world. That's why we are here. The purpose of the second webinar is to exchange experiences about studies of citrus viral diseases. Today, 6 speakers will show something to us. Before the presentation starts, I would like to remind the listeners, please make sure to mute your microphone and turn off your camera. You can type your question in the chat. And if we have time, the speaker can reply directly, or if we do not the rest of time, so the speaker can answer the question in the chat. Okay, let's start. The first speaker is Dr. Juliana Freitas Osto. She is a plant virologist at the Brazilian Agricultural Research Corporation, Brazil. She received her PhD from University of Florida in 2001. Juliana is a former chairperson of the IOCV from 2013 to 2016. And she served as the current president of the Brazilian Phytopathological Society. She is interested in all aspects of citrus necrosis, including the virus diversity and variability, and the virus vector-host interaction. So Juliana, please.
Thank you, Menji. It's a great pleasure to be here today. Actually, I'm looking at here, trying to see some known people, and I'm very glad to see here Dr. Moshe Bar Joseph and Bill Dawson, John DeGrasse, and Chang Yong. I mean, there's so many. It's just so many people that I wish I could be in Australia with you now, but at least we can meet virtually. It's better than nothing, and we'll meet all together in 2025, right, Merida? So it's really a great pleasure to be here. I want to thank Menji for the introduction. I want to thank the organizing committee for the invitation. And I think I'm going to share here my screen. So please let me know if you can see it. Is it okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. So, well, my pleasure to be here is to see you all and also to talk about my favorite pathosystem, which probably you already know, that is citrus necrosis. But before I start talking about the disease, I just want to remind you the importance of sweet orange to Brazil. You all know that Brazil is the largest sweet orange producer in the world. Around 60% of the orange juice consumed is produced in Brazil. And we grow citrus under a tropical condition, which means that we have lots of pests and pathogens. Whoever has been to IOCV meetings in Brazil know that every time we go to the field, we have lots to see. So today, my focus is going to be on citrus necrosis. For those of you who are not very familiar with the disease, it has been reported in Florida in late 1800s. And a few years later, it also appeared in Brazil and Paraguay. The symptoms are very conspicuous. So they are these localized chlorotic or necrotic lesions in leaves, branches, and fruits. It took 100 years. Only in 1995, Brazilian researchers were able to fulfill the Cox postulate, and they showed they transmitted mechanically the virus to experimental hosts and then back to citrus. But before that, they already knew that there were at least 2 types of viruses associated with necrosis. One type that we call cytoplasmic, because the virus multiplies, it replicates in the cytoplasm of infected cells. And another type that is called nuclear because the virus multiplies and replicates in the nucleus of infected cells. It was already known also that the mite vector, this is the false spider mite, the brevipaupus mites, that they transmit these viruses. So in 1968 was the last time that leprosis was seen in the US, but we are not as lucky, and the disease occurs and has occurred in Brazil and a few other countries in South America since the beginning of the 20th century. So for 100 years, leprosis was basically a problem of Brazil. This virus, particularly the cytoplasmic type of virus, infects mainly sweet oranges. And as I showed you, we have lots of them in our orchards. So this was a typical disease, a typical problem of Brazil. However, in 1999, it was identified in Venezuela, which is right in the north of South America. And in the following years, it spread throughout up north the continent. So now leprosis is reported from Argentina to Mexico in 15 countries in the Americas, all the way here to Mexico. In more recent years, it was also identified in South Africa and last year in Hawaii. So now we know that when we talk about leprosis, we're talking about a complex. There are at least 6 viruses or viruses belonging to 6 different species associated with leprosis. 4 of them, and remember I told you there were 2 types of leprosis. This was confirmed, and actually now we know that they belong to 2 genera in 2 different families. So there are 4 viruses, or there are viruses from 4 species that belong to genus Dicoravirus, family Rhabdoviridae. From these 4, 3 only occur in Brazil, and they're not really important at all. They occur rarely, they are in marginal production areas, so they don't cause trouble to us at all, at least not yet, okay? There's another Dicoravirus here, OFV, that the virus is orchid plague virus, and as the name says, it infects primarily orchids. So this virus has been reported in at least 4 places, in Colombia, Mexico, South Africa, the one from 2019, and last year it was reported in Hawaii. Is this a concern?